Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking all about running shoe rotations, what it is, what shoes you should normally look for, what roles those shoes are going to fill, and then at the end of the video I'm going to be telling you how you can save some money while building out your rotation. So let's start by just talking about what a running shoe rotation is. Simply put, it's the running shoes that you run in each week or every other week or however frequently you're running in your shoes. The rotation part of it comes as you switch between shoes depending on the type of running you're doing. Even if you haven't thought about the shoes you use for each type of run, you may notice that if you're going out for a fast pace or a longer run, then you tend to gravitate towards choosing certain pairs of shoes because they're more comfortable or they allow you to run at the pace that you're aiming for. And this is something that shoe manufacturers take into account too. They design specific running shoes to kind of fill different holes within your running training. By having an understanding of what an appropriate running shoe rotation might look like, it allows you to pick the best shoes for each workout, setting you up to absolutely smash your running or triathlon goals. So to go through my running shoe rotation, we're going to start with the most essential shoes and we're going to go to the least essential and the shoes that I run in least frequently. And then, as I mentioned at the end, we're going to go through a couple of money saving tips. So to begin, we're going to start with the shoe that you're going to run in most commonly by far, and that's your daily trainer. This is arguably the most important shoe in your running shoe rotation, and if you have a good daily trainer, it can really make all of your runs much better. The vast majority of your runs are going to be in this daily trainer. You'll be doing almost all of your miles in this shoe, whether that be your easy runs, your long runs, your social runs, some fartlek, whatever you kind of need that isn't a specific type of run or a specific workout. This is where the daily trainer comes into its own. It really is the jack of all trades when it comes to running shoes, and it needs to be reliable no matter what the weather conditions. So a shoe with poor grip is not going to be appropriate because you're going to need to use your daily trainer when it's raining outside or when it's snowing. Regardless of kind of the weather outside, you need to be able to get in those daily consistent miles. My personal philosophy when picking a daily trainer is to make sure that it's comfortable enough that I can run consistently in it without it upsetting my feet, but it's also not too heavy, not too bulky as to whether I want to pick up the pace, put some strides in, or if I'm feeling really good. You just want to have a daily trainer that can enable you to run whatever way you want, regardless of the day. My go-to daily trainer is this one right here. This is the Nike Infinity Run Flyknit version 1. There is a second version, but this one has done me just fine so far. I do have a full review of this shoe at both 100 miles and 500 kilometers, and I'll put a link to one of those up in the corner right there. I choose this shoe because it's got great grip, enough cushioning to the point where it's not going to fatigue my legs overly. The upper's really comfortable, but it is relatively lightweight compared to some other max cushion shoes, meaning that if I want to pick the pace up and do more of a fartlek style run, I can very easily do it in this shoe. Some other daily trainers to consider would be something like the New Balance 1080, the Nova Blast 2 from Asics, or the Hoka Mark IV, which I also have a video up, and I'll put a card right up there for that. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying this or finding it helpful, please consider smashing that thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel, as it really helps out. The next shoe we're going to talk about is the Tempo running shoe. Now, this is almost as important as your daily trainer because this is what you're going to be doing the majority of your workout training in, whether that be shorter intervals, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, or maybe longer ones, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, or a whole tempo run if you can push yourself that hard. Generally, you'll be using this shoe at least once a week, and so it's important to make sure that it's comfortable enough that you can run consistently in it and it isn't going to fatigue your legs or your feet the day afterwards. However, it needs to be light enough and agile enough that you can really put in the paces and ensure you're hitting your running goals. This tempo shoe can also be something that you race in, meaning that you don't have to buy an extra pair of shoes just for racing in. However, we're going to cover race shoes as a separate option later down the line, so I'll be focusing on more budget-friendly options for tempo running shoes. An extremely budget-friendly tempo and almost daily training shoe from Adidas would be the Adidas SL20 full review just up there. This is a lightweight yet reasonably cushioned, very responsive shoe with great traction that I love taking out for some shorter tempo intervals. However, it's hard not to recommend the Saucony Endorphin Speed 1 or the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2. The Endorphin Speed might be the best tempo shoe out there that's ever been created. It's reasonable enough in price that you can consistently run in it without feeling bad, but the level of foam in it is absolutely perfect to not fatigue your legs. You get a massive amount of energy back from it, and having a nylon plate in the sole means that it's stiff enough to give you good energy return, but you're not quite as fatigued as from a carbon plate. Those are my two favourite tempo running shoes at the moment. On to our next category of shoes, and now we're getting quite niche. We're going to talk about a recovery or the max cushioned shoe. This job can easily be done by a more cushioned daily trainer. However, especially if you're looking to train for marathons and be putting in a really high amount of miles every week, having something with a lot more cushion will really help you get out after one of those tempo or a long run day and just kind of baby the legs and make sure that everything's ticking over without putting any extra strain on your body. This shoe is definitely less important than the daily trainer and the tempo shoe, which we've already talked about. However, it definitely can be important. My current favourite max cushion shoe has to be the Hoka One Clifton 8. Full review in the corner again. As you can see, I use a lot of these shoes very regularly. This shoe is kind of the epitome of that max cushion recovery style shoe with a thick wad of EVA foam in the heel and in the forefoot, super plush, relaxed upper, just to help you get through those days when you really don't feel like you can go out because you've done a really long or hard workout the day before. Other shoes to consider might be something like the Nike Invincible Run with a massive wad of that Zoom X foam in it, or something like the New Balance Fresh Foam More. Again, just look for big amounts of foam, nice plush upper, something that is inviting to run in after a hard workout. On to our penultimate shoe, and we've got another niche one. This is our long run shoe, and this really can be done by so many of the other shoes in your rotation. You might want to do your long runs in your daily trainer, or your tempo shoe, or even your max cushion recovery shoe, depending on your level of experience within running. The long run shoe is almost a combination of your daily shoe and your tempo shoe. It needs to be cushioned enough so that you're not going to get fatigued on your long runs, but light enough and responsive enough so that you can still keep the pace up, because keeping a high pace on your long runs is really key to having great running training success. Personally, I like to have a shoe specifically for my long runs, as that takes a little bit of pressure off of my daily trainer to be doing less miles each week and just makes it last a little bit longer. I find myself again going to recommend the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2, another great budget option for this category of running shoes. Again, it does have a nylon plate in it, which some people don't prefer to run in their long runs. Kind of the stereotypical long run shoe would be the Adidas Boston. However, the Boston 10 isn't quite looking like any of the other Bostons. So if you can still get your hands on a Boston 9, I would highly recommend that as an excellent long run type of shoe. And now finally, we've reached the last shoe that we're going to talk about in this video, and that is the racing day shoe. This is arguably the most exciting shoe in your running rotation, and also, unfortunately, the most expensive one. This is not really a shoe that you're going to run very frequently. Save it for the occasional hard key workout coming up to your run or race, and then obviously fresh out the box on race day. Nowadays, these shoes tend to be carbon plated, as that supposedly improves the level of energy return and makes them make you faster. However, they don't have to be carbon plated if it's not your personal preference. When looking for a race shoe, I would recommend trying to pair it with your tempo shoe. Very often, manufacturers will have a cheaper budget version of their top-end racing shoe, and by running in the cheaper version, the tempo version, more frequently, it allows you to be more comfortable when you put on the race day shoe less frequently. And remember, this shoe isn't at all necessary. You can very easily race in your tempo day shoe. However, I must say having a race day specific shoe feels really good. The the types of shoes that you want to save till race day feel amazing when you put them on, and I really do believe they can make you faster. And I think there's also a massive mental side. Having something special that you only wear on race day gets you into the mentality to push yourself harder than any other time. My personal favourite race day shoe is the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 2. First impression video up in the corner. This really is one of the best race day shoes you can ask for. Adidas's leading Lightstrike Pro foam, carbon plated energy rods in the sole, a super lightweight see-through upper. Something like this will guide you through race day and you'll be absolutely flying. Other shoes to consider, something like the Nike Vaporfly or Alphafly, the Hoka One One Carbon X, or the Saucony Endorphin Pro, which you could pair with the Saucony Endorphin Speed that we've talked a lot about in this video. So finally, let's go over my 3 money-saving tips when building up your running shoe rotation. The first one has to do with how you're using your shoes in your running shoe rotation. By having a slightly larger running shoes, you can see I use 5 shoes mainly. It allows you to run less frequently in each pair. It's thought that this will allow the foam more time to expand to its original size in between runs. So instead of running on already compacted foam, you're running on slightly more expanded foam each time. This means that the foam is more likely to spring back to its original size after you finish running in it each time, instead of being compressed more and more and more gradually. It's thought that this will allow the shoes to take more miles in before they start to bottom out and become not as enjoyable and not as good to run in. The idea is that this allows you to replace shoes less frequently from getting more miles out of them than you otherwise would if you're only running in one pair consistently. Tip number 2 is buying last year's model. It's always tempting to buy whatever the newest version of the shoe is, even if there's only been a minute change between last year's version and this year's version. However, if you can stop yourself from buying into the hype from the shoe manufacturers, buying last year's version is a great way to get amazing running shoes at discount prices. Looking at websites like sportshoes.com or Running Warehouse, wherever you want to buy your last edition shoes, will allow you to get a shoe that is almost identical to the brand new ones, while looking at up to a 30, 50, maybe even 60 or 70% discount depending on the model and brand. This is why I have a lot of older running shoes and I often don't rush out to buy the brand new running shoes immediately. This reduces the cost of buying a large number of running shoes initially and allows you to build up that rotation cheaper, meaning that you're getting shoes that are going to last longer because it's easier to buy more, and it feeds into the first tip that we just spoke about. And my last money saving tip is to hold off and don't buy a racing shoe until you absolutely feel like it's necessary. As I mentioned when talking about racing shoes, they are really expensive. They can often be 2 or 3 times the price of your other trainers. That means that you could build out a full running shoe rotation for the cost of simply 1 pair of racing shoes. And again, I know the flashiness of it, that excitement of the top of the line shoes can almost suck you in with the amazing advertising from the running shoe manufacturers. But if you can hold off and simply try and buy other running shoes to really flesh out that rotation, I guarantee that you'll be much better off in the long run. Start with other running shoes on this list. Get a good daily trainer, a really nice tempo pair of shoes that you can still race in, even if the manufacturer doesn't market it as their best racing shoe, and a max cushion or a recovery shoe for the same price as that new pair of Alphaflys or Vaporflys. Enter some races, get some nice kit, and fall in love with running. And then when you're trying to push those next set of goals, then maybe start to consider a pair of race shoes, although they might not even be appropriate at that point. But that's it for this video. Did I miss out any types of shoes that you think are key to your running shoe rotations? Leave those suggestions in the comments below, and also tell me, what are your favourite running shoes for each of these categories? Which daily trainers, tempo shoes, race day shoes are you rocking at the moment? And I'll try and get back to every single one of you. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, whether that be running shoe reviews, running in general, or triathlon training, then please consider subscribing to the channel, as that really helps me out.